Hey, it's the Fatboy Show on your number one station, RX Radio. I hope you're enjoying this Christmas season. Of course, it's a season fraught with all kinds of disconcerting things. The main one being lack of money. It's a big problem. Which is why I'm sure if you're a man called Richard Bierugaba, you're all smiles because that is one problem you're not going to be having. Is it true that he got reappointed in the role of Managing Director of NSSF, Olive?
Well, according to a story by Trumpet News Uganda, the Prime Minister Robin Anabanja directed the Gender Minister, Honorable Betty Amongi, to reappoint Richard Bierugaba as NSSF MD for 5 years.
Okay, so that's amazing. And I don't know what your own thoughts are about his performance as MD of NSSF, but I would say it's not been too bad. I guess it could always be better, but I would think that it's not a bad idea to keep him on.
Probably it's not a bad idea because at least, unlike many government agencies that are rife with corruption scandals, I don't think we've had the same at the NSSF. They have tried and they have reinvested the money, though, of course, that is a story for another day when it comes to, people getting what they deserve.
Yes.
And I remember how much he tried to defend the fund, not necessarily defend, how much he didn't want people to get there. Was it 40%?
Oh, you mean the midterm access?
The midterm access.
He was against it initially.
At first he was saying we reinvested the money, we don't have ready cash. But then when the president insisted, then the cash was there.
But they paid it.
And they paid it. All in all, I think he has tried. But away from him trying, hasn't he reached the age of retirement?
Well, I mean, do those things really matter, Olive? If someone is still capable of doing a job, just leave him to do it.
But are we to believe that there are no other people that can do the job as well as he has been doing it, or even better?
I wouldn't know because I don't know how the sector works. Okay. But as far as I'm aware, every year or so, I do get my SMS from NSSF notifying me of how much interest I have accrued in that year from my savings. And I also did get my midterm access.
You got?
I got.
You've been silent. You didn't want us to come for salary raises.
I got the midterm access and it was just a big surprise because they said, you can do it online. I'm like, this is a joke. It will take 10 years. And
so
I just
did it,
tap, tap. And then just 3 weeks later, hey, what's this?
You got your money.
Yeah.
Wow. I won't ask how much because you won't tell me. Aren't you lucky? Because I still have a long way to go before I can even get my midterm access.
But did I even enjoy it or did I just reinvest it in my business?
At least it's your business.
Okay, there's that. But anyway, so let's hope that if the story is true and indeed it is confirmed that he's been made to continue in that role, in that capacity, that he continues to do a good job.
I hope so too.
But you do raise an important point about the need to groom other people. I mean, just because someone does a good job, it doesn't mean, okay,
they must stay there
they're
until
the alpha
they die.
and omega.
Yes, and also it makes the whole idea of retirement laughable because the people in major government positions do not leave, do not retire, but then the people in lower positions get to retire. So make that make sense.
Because when you are not the MD, they're quick to usher you out.
Yes. But then when you're the MD or the head of something, then you get another tenure, which I find unfair. And of course, you cannot cultivate a culture of people going into retirement when other people keep getting more years, on their contracts.
That's true. What about when it comes to marriage? Do you think it should be the same? People say how it should be contractual and that, a 5-year term might be a good way of gauging whether or not a marriage is working. And then you have the option of renewing. So in the same way that we do this for employment contracts, should we do it for marriage contracts?
Actually, back in the day, I used to hear that civil marriage was contractual. What people don't understand is that, yes, you sign, the marriage certificate that you sign in the registrar's office, it doesn't necessarily mean that your marriage is a contract. It just means that you get your papers right away, unlike when you go to church and then you have to go back to pick your certificate and something like that.
I guess.
But coming back to your suggestion, I think for some people should have an option of saying, I want to be married for 5 years.
I think it'll be quite helpful. And in fact, don't even have the wedding until you've passed 5 years. And some people say if you can last the first 5 years, then you have a good chance for the future.
What do you mean don't have the wedding?
As in, okay, let me put it this way. Because the reason why marriages are faltering these days is because the only thing people are concerned about is the big day. For most people, the marriage starts and ends at the big day. So in the period leading up to the wedding, everyone's excited, everyone's giddy, everyone's happy. And I must say, in particular, the bride.
Mm-hmm.
And when the day comes and passes, all of a sudden it's anticlimactic, right? So all of a sudden, all is said and done. Everyone has forgotten about your fancy wedding and the pictures and your reception. And now you are, unfortunately,
It's time to do
a
the
wife
work.
with a husband. By the way,
And if you're not careful, he's going to make you pregnant and you're going to have kids and you're going to lose your figure because
That
you're
too,
now
right?
married, you're a wife.
so the fun part, for a lot of women, the fun part ended on the wedding day.
But it's funny. I've had so many, and I've had so many men saying that the wedding day is for the woman, and maybe to a large extent it is. But also, I've attended weddings when the groom was actually happier and more excited about that day than the wife.
I think the reason for that is a lot of men have become like women. And Viola was mentioning this the other day. Men have become like women now.
Mm-hmm.
Now you see men are the ones crying at weddings.
Because
Have you seen those videos where the bride is being led down the aisle and the groom is just breaking down in
Because
tears?
he looks at her and he remembers everything he went through to get her to reach that day. And he's like, oh my God, I can't believe she's mine.
Is that why he's crying, or is he crying because he's crying in anticipation of the suffering he will endure?
No, those are usually tears of happiness, Fatboy. I know tears of, of fear. When I see them, like I can tell this guy, he's worried. And this guy is like, oh my goodness, I can't believe she's now mine, all mine.
Except she's not all yours.
Fat boy, who hurt you?
These Kampala girls of today. Did you see that meme on social media of a guy? I don't know if he's a photographer or something. But anyway, a guy who was talking about a girl that was supposed to Kwanjula.
Yes.
And I think, I can't remember the exact context of it. What did it say?
So his friend's girlfriend
Mm-hmm.
was Kwanjula, was basically she had an introduction or a traditional marriage over the weekend.
Right.
But the friend says that they had been with the girl on Wednesday and had even agreed on a kuchala to her parents' home in January, and she had agreed on the dates. Then they see pictures of her introduction on Snapchat.
So that's the thing. So everyone's things are crazy now.
But you see, women are only doing what men have done since time immemorial.
But see, that's the excuse.
You have had it's not an excuse, fat boy. You have had stories of men that have had their wives iron their kanzus. Prepare him. He says he's going for a friend's introduction, only for you to see pictures or people to send you a message and they're like, do you know where your husband is? And you're like, he went for an introduction of a friend. And then they send you messages, pictures, and he is the groom.
Okay, so what's your point? So we're now even?
The point is, if you delay, someone else is ready to do the work for you.
So that in all the time you delayed to propose to your girlfriend, she was now exploring her options.
Yep.
And so by the time you decide you're ready, she may already have laid other plans.
On, yes. Because most times women, you see, you guys, like we always say here, men are the gatekeepers of marriage, right? And we are the gatekeepers of sex. Mm-hmm. But in most cases, you cannot force a man to marry you. You can't force him to propose, to even set a date. Actually, if you talk about it so much, then you become nagging.
That's right.
So you spend a time with this guy, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and he is not moving. He's not moving an inch to, into the direction of a proposal.
I understand, but do you
suitors?
But do you understand where the hesitation might come from?
Where does it
for
come
men?
from?
I think when you do find a woman that seems obsessively interested in getting married, it sort of makes us think that that's what you want. That you don't want us, but you want the status of being married, or you want to accomplish the milestone or you just want a wedding. And the reason we think this is because it's borne out by the experience of most men who, when they do get married, they do find that the wives change completely. And then they just become totally self-obsessed, no longer as passionate as they were before, meaning that in the same way that a man may be more attentive before he gets sex, and then when he gets sex, he's now more aloof and not so committed or interested. The same might be true for women and how they relate to commitment. Once it is obtained, they feel like the work is done. So no more pretending to be nice or sweet. No more listening to his BS. No more pretending to enjoy watching football. You just can be yourself.
That's why I'm always of the view that you should not start what you cannot finish. If you know that you will not be able to cook katogo for that man for the rest of your life, do not pretend to him that you can do it, because he's going to marry you with the expectation that this is the kind of breakfast he's going to have for the rest of his life. You get? Start what you can finish. If you're
And
not
then
going to
after-
wash his boxers for the rest of your married life, don't start washing the boxers.
The problem arises when after the wedding, all of a sudden, you want to have sex with the same frequency as before. She's like, oh, wait, but do you just see me as a sex object?
But when
Or-
you say frequency, what do you mean? Because most couples do not live together before they get married.
Well, the thing is, in the early stages, in the dating stages, there's the couples just can't keep their hands off of each other.
And the reason why I'm saying they don't stay together before they get married, people think that when they're single, there is frequency in sex. But let's look at it this way. You have your place, she has hers.
Mm-hmm.
She comes to yours maybe on Friday up to Sunday. And within those 3 days, you're having amazing sex, consistent, constant sex. But then now
Morning to evening.
Exactly.
To
but
morning
now, but
again.
now you're staying together Monday to Sunday, 30 days a month.
So what?
365 days.
Excuse me, so what? What
No,
does that
What I'm
mean?
trying to say is that you forget that before she got married to you and started living with you, you were not having sex with her between Monday and Friday. So the only times you were having sex with her over the weekend make you believe that she was consistent, but she wasn't. It was only weekend
Okay, so now what's
sex.
the man supposed to do in that situation?
I'm
he
not
obviously
saying,
wants the sex.
I'm not saying
So-
women should not have the sex with their men. Don't get me wrong.
What are you saying?
All I'm saying is that men should not be saying women changed. The difference is that you were getting weekend sex. You were not getting sex between Monday and Sunday.
So now that I've married you, in fact, shouldn't you even give me more? The best of you.
but we
Because
all-
that is what was promised.
Not all animals.
Because you see that in those weekend sessions, that's now me sampling you, you see. I'm getting a taste of what life with you might be like. So now that I've married you, why am I not entitled to that dish?
Who can have sex from Monday to Sunday? Honestly, who can?
Is it so hard?
Can you even?
Is it impossible?
Let me tell you.
Is it age? Is age the problem?
It's not age, because not every married woman is old or, past 30 or something.
Uh-huh.
And even you guys, first of all, you complain about the sex, but let's have this conversation. How long can you last? Because some men give us 2 minutes and they're like, oh, baby,
It's enough.
that was
At least if, you know what? As long as we're having it every day, if it's 2 minutes, it's good.
for who?
For both.
No.
Why wouldn't it be good?
It
for
is
both?
good for you because even if it's 1 minute, you get a release. Who told you a woman gets there in a minute?
How long do you take?
Even by the way we are mad, we
Really?
can't.
Really? A minute is not enough?
Really? What is a minute? A minute, I'm just starting to warm up. And you're like, that was a blast. What was a blast?
So how long is sufficient? A sufficient amount of time to get to where you need to go?
No, every person has a different timeline, really.
So on
I cannot-
average, what does a woman need? 20 minutes? 30 minutes?
No, some people can even have it for 10. Some can have it for 15. Some can have it for 20, 30, depending. Because I can't say that all women want the same amount of time.
Because there's some chicks who, like, I don't know, maybe if it's an emotional state, maybe if she's so much in love with you, or she's had a nice day, she's in a good mood, she can get off on a quickie of 5 minutes and she's like, oh, honey, that was amazing. Meanwhile, if a chick is either not feeling you or she's feeling upset over something, you can go all night and all she's going to say is, are you done? I'm feeling sore now.
But
Meanwhile, you're sweating and toiling.
But let's also talk about the quality, because you may be sweating and toiling when your work is work.
Because have you ever tried to toil to make a woman get there? It's exhausting.
Even there are some men
It's exhausting.
who just don't
like
get
some people, like I guess some people, it's less work. Some people require more.
Yeah.
Right. And unfortunately, the older the woman is, the more work it tends to take.
And unfortunately, the older the guy is, the less work he has to he wants to put.
So maybe that's why I think the best match when it comes to age variation is what I believe is, I actually think a woman, like, for example, in her 30s is probably best suited to be with a man in his 20s. I think that's when their sexual urges and drive is at par. Because I think a man who is, let's say, 35 or 40 and upwards, I don't think he can meet the needs of a woman in her 30s, because that is when she's at her sexual peak. A woman's sexual peak is like early 30s, early to mid 30s. That's when
true.
She understands her body.
But yes.
She's, you know.
I was going to ask you, do you actually know why for most women the sexual peak is in their early 30s or even mid 30s? It's because when we are younger, in our 20s, most times everything we care about is pleasing the guy. So every information we have, all the education we have from aunties, from big sisters, is about pleasing the guy. Then you reach your 30s and you're like, come on, I also need to get my own.
Actually, okay, I've heard it differently. I have heard that actually women experience a second puberty.
In their 30s?
In their 30s, where the body starts to get infused with huge amounts of testosterone. That
should be true.
Which is why in her 30s, you may see some women even start to get small beard hairs. Do you have?
I've had this forever.
Or their voices start to get a bit deeper. And that is what really boosts their sex drive. And so it makes them more sexually active and more sexually desirous. And so that is why they're like really, they want it and they want it bad. And
how about in their 40s?
If you go
I've also seen women in their 40s going crazy.
I think so, yeah. So I think it's somewhere from like early 30s to early 40s. That's probably the bracket. And then, of course, menopause after that. Because you go to any social media group populated by girls in their 20s, you will never hear a mention of sex. They don't even talk about you say something about sex and the girls are like, ew, that's gross. But go to a Facebook page that has women in their 30s. All you see is sex posts. Like there's a certain famous Facebook group I can direct you to. And there are many where you can clearly see there are women who are in their 30s or 40s and that they're posting pictures of men with like bulging boxers. And,
no, we like to look at good things.
Six packs.
We like to look at good things. Just like you guys like looking at nyash. We like looking at nice chests.
Well, and so that is why I think for both sides to be happy, you have to know who you match with. And whereas people criticize cross-generational sex, say between older men and younger women,
yes,
they're better matched. Because a woman in her 20s, they're not super horny. They'll have desires.
So you're saying that grown men or men that are older, let's say in their 40s, dating girls in their 20s, are not with them, mainly because they don't have to do too much when it comes to sex.
Or yes, they don't have to do as much, and they tend to be satisfied with, I guess their expectations are also far reduced, and their needs, as compared to a woman in her 30s whose expectations and needs are quite immense. People make fun of me when I post this on social media. It's like, if you date a woman in your 30s, you better be ready. That woman is not going to let you sleep. She will simply not. She'll wake you up several times in the middle of the night and tell you to get to work.
So you know what you do? You make sure that when you get to work, you do your job and do it so well that she has to sleep up to morning. The problem is that when you last 2-3 minutes, definitely she's gonna wake you up.
You think we haven't done that? And then you do it and you even pat yourself on the back.
And the quality.
You're like, man, I killed her today. Today she has been taught a lesson.
And then you sleep for 20 minutes and she's like, dude.
You're like, sister, you want me to die? Please Let me relax a little bit. Have an early morning. Yeah, that's how it is. So
Wow.
I think it's important for both sides to understand their biology.
So now I understand why Zari keeps painting the town, red with her young lovers.
I think so. And for those who, of course, might still have material needs that would need to be met by an older man, you might still find yourself needing a younger man to satisfy you sexually. And a lot of women sort of date both types of men simultaneously.
So she has the older man to finance her needs,
and then she has some broke
a young
dude
guy to
to supply her the goods, the other goods. So you got to know your level. You got to know your level.
I had started going to the gym a few months ago, and my instructor had such a nice body.
Oh yeah.
And my question was to myself, I was like, how do women handle being in the gym with men who look this good
and you wait
and not do anything about it?
And that's the thing, and that's why gym instructors really are enjoying themselves because their clients are mostly women in that age bracket. Who are now in their 30s, their mothers, they're trying to get in shape.
Get back in shape.
While their sexual urges are at their peak.
And then the man is looking like God's gift to women.
And he's holding you and touching you and directing you.
Okay, mine was not holding and touching, but I get what you're saying.
So these women become easy prey for these gym instructors.
Wow.
So that's why
and most of the gym instructors are broke young men.
Exactly.
So if the chicks have the money, the gym instructors are in things. Wow.
That's right. Those guys have had their way with women. It's
crazy.